Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another edition of the show. Stardate 2015, 273 at 22:07 Eastern Standard Time. We're joined tonight by our Chief Logistics Officer, Captain Timberwolf. Lead us off with a good howl, sir. Thank you very much, the Blood Red Moon, folks. Thank you also. Our Chief Gravelly Intelligence Officer, Captain Sarcasm Detector.
Greetings.
Extra gravel in his sauce today. Our Chief Science Officer, Captain Snipey 47 Alpha.
Hello, everyone.
Our Chief of Cheesy Tactics, Captain SOB.
Hello.
Our Chief Ironic Medic and Ground King of the Day, Captain MK.
I'm definitely not locked in my office huffing hyposprays right now.
Oh, well, you know what? Hold on a second. I knew I was missing something today. I had got our chief engineer to fix the emergency role-playing hologram, and I forgot the bloody isolinear chips. Dang! Well, I guess we won't be doing without him for today.
We're gonna miss him.
Changed those yesterday.
He'll be back next week, we hope.
We hope. I gotta figure out where the heck I put those chips, man, because we can't activate it without that. That's his entire memory cortex.
We'll get Balana on it.
Forget that, man. Anyway, first thing we're going to lead off straight into the show because we saw this and it was one of these facepalm moments. Somebody pull up a Picard and Riker facepalm moment, please. Just give me a triple because this one is crazy. I mean, ultra crazy. SOB, please lead us off with this one here because I don't even want to say any more on this.
So there's recently been a rumor going around that dropping your Tac Consoles and slotting Universal Consoles in their place was a good idea for high-end builds.
What?
What?
Yeah.
For the love of God, are you serious?
I know. Someone hit the Kool-Aid hard on that one.
Yeah, it's been spread around and a few people have been doing it and it's really not doing anything for them.
Wait, what?
Hold on, now.
Seriously, Cam, have you not heard this?
Yeah, there are a few threads around
This has been going on for
the
days,
forums,
man. Seriously.
on SEO builds, etc.
What?
So basically, a few people got some really lucky runs in with Neutronic plus multiple Kemocites on their build, and they're basing their claims around that. So just those few lucky runs, they think that signifies that them dropping those consoles helped them. They didn't put much math behind it, just a few runs.
No more repeatability, yeah. You gotta run these a few times to get any useful data out of it anyway.
Now, let me get this straight here. Is this something separate from what I've made as a recommendation as far as using something specific here? The Counter Command Multi-Conduit Energy Relay on science ships. I have made recommendations for some science ships where
it is different than that because your approach is situational, like really situational.
Yeah,
and
it is.
This is being touted as kind of if you have a high-end build, this is what you do, like an addition to the meta or change to the meta, and it really shouldn't be positioned as that, I guess, is what we're trying to say.
Wow.
Well, from what I understand, it's if you've got a TAC-heavy escort or a scimitar or something like that, drop all your TAC consoles for universal ones. That's just kooky talk.
Yeah, you can get away with it more on science builds or niche builds, but not when you're tac heavy.
It's an extremely niche thing.
Wow.
Well, not in PvP. In PvP, it's quite normal to put actually no tactical consoles on a science ship.
Well, yeah,
We're
but
not talking
PvP itself is a niche.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Is the point.
We're talking PvE, Cam. This is why it's just unbelievable. What's your take on it?
All right, well, there might be something to this, but not a lot. Because the tactical consoles themselves are really underperforming. We've talked about this before. Really, the only important
from a damage boost perspective, yeah, but the crit
Yeah.
boost on the on the fleet consoles is still useful.
Yeah, that's the only thing that really matters is the crit H part or the crit D part, depending on what build you're running.
Right.
The actual damage boost itself is not that good.
Right, and I mean, people are forgetting why it's not that good. It's because that category of the damage model is really crowded. But the thing is, replacing those consoles with universals that have different damage categories, well, a lot of those are getting crowded as well.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I mean, remember when we were switching over to beam consoles for way back when the
Yeah, well, generic consoles from the specific energy tap boosting consoles.
Yes. Now we were losing about, what was it, 1%?
Something like that. I mean, the math on the tooltip was like 3 or 4% difference, but the end
Effective.
yeah, the effective loss was like 1% or 2, no more than that.
1 or 2. Yeah, well, I would say 1% per console. So if you had a ship with 5 consoles running
Yeah,
APs, you lost. If you switched to plus beam consoles, then you'd lose about 5% effective
Right.
DPS.
I mean, switching to the generic consoles was not why you didn't do it for it was the plasma consoles that were making the difference.
Yes, it made a big difference in the plasma consoles themselves.
Right.
A significant difference there, but the actual damage on the weapons themselves was just very small.
Slightly lower. I remember.
So I would say that each console itself is probably in the lines of about 7% effective DPS. 7 to being really generous, maybe 10%. So dropping 5 tactical consoles, you're probably going to lose half your weapon DPS. If not a little bit more, depending on the build itself. I don't see this as really too effective or too smart of a meta. Now, I have been thinking of doing a little bit of testing of not getting rid of the tactical consoles themselves, just putting in the wrong type of tactical consoles. For example, running APs with phaser consoles, for example, just to see how much damage I would get just from the crit H part of the thing.
That would be really, really interesting to see what the
And I
results
also want to make a point that none of us are trying to discourage alternate builds or creative ideas. That's definitely not the point. The point is this particular idea is, while probably well intended, not fundamentally correct.
Yeah,
or
I think
had specific testing to justify the claim.
If you make an assertion, cool, but you got to have a decent amount of testing behind it, not a little bit. It's not enough of a cross section of the actual server performance, performance of the weapons, the run is going to be slightly different every time, etc.
I agree. This is more of someone kind of missing the barn door. I would like to see some testing done. I would like to see the numbers, because this is what we're about. We like to test stuff. We like to go over in fine detail in the parses. We like to have a nice data set.
Empirical testing is pretty much the way to establish just about any idea you have in this game.
Yeah,
Exactly.
The only time I've actually seen one of these cases work in PvE is on science vessels, where the tactical slots are replaced with universals boosting exotic damage boosts. But that's exactly what they're building for, and that's the only time I've actually seen it effective.
But even then, we're looking at specific circumstances.
Oh, absolutely.
Where replacing a Tac console to boost your major source of damage with a universal would work. But just like a generic, forget all this other stuff here. Let's just throw any willy-nilly thing that gives you a couple points here of crit hit and a little bit of crit D, and then extra system power, subsystem power, and you call it a day. You're good.
Pretty much. Now, Sin Industries, yeah, it's like switching a fifth tactical slot for a Tachyo. I think the Tachyo is the one that split 1.25 and
Yeah,
12.5%.
12.5 at Epic or something like that.
Yeah, I think
Yep.
that probably will equal out. Um,
Probably. I mean, I'd like to see the results of your energy type console test to see really what you'd be losing and if you could afford it.
I would say from the kinetic community standpoint, if you're running a 4 or 5 Tac console ship and you swap out a Torp or a specific kinetic booster type for a Tachyo or any universal, you're
Or a
losing
Neuro,
damage.
maybe.
You're losing it. You're just losing damage, period.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Because as much as people say Cat 1 is saturated, for torpedoes, you need a big, healthy boost in order to be able to get bigger numbers. Yeah, Cat 2, 3, and 4 are very important, mind you, don't get me wrong. But if you start out with a big Cat 1, the Cat 2, Cat 3, and Cat 4 are that much more magnified with it. So I'd rather start up with a nice, big, healthy 150, damage, for example, just throwing out numbers out there. I'd rather start with 150 base damage versus 100 base damage. Because then my multipliers going all the way forward are that much stronger for me.
If everything is working.
Assuming everything is working, yes. I like your qualifier on that one, by the way.
So do I, actually.
I'm the medic. I got to worry about stuff like this.
Well, that's why we have you around, man. That's why we have you around. All right, moving on to this. Big news on the Kemocite Konundrum. Yes, Borticus has announced it. Came up flat out saying yes. We've acknowledged
Borticus
it.
has acknowledged it.
Not only acknowledged it, came out and said that. Let me pull up the exact quote here. Where did I stuff that thing? Here we go. He pretty much came out and said this number. Bam. Guys, read that halfway clearly or 3/4 of the way clearly. But pretty much is he can acknowledge that there is an issue with Kemocite laced weaponry and a few other powers that were recently updated in our server performance patches. It's under investigation and is a high priority. Reviewing fixing the issue has been a bit slow due to a primary focus on getting Season 11 ready for a clean launch, which we can understand. What we were looking
Absolutely.
Yes, what we were looking for was exactly this. Thank you for letting us know. Not only it's on your radar, but it is a high priority. We've got what we wanted. We're moving on. Thank you very much, Borticus, for the announcement.
Indeed,
Yes, thank you, sir.
it wasn't just Borticus that chimed in. Gecko also replied to the post that was on Reddit. And I'll quote him here. We are looking into this. The systems team is pretty bogged down with the Admiralty and wrapping up Season 11. But we will put this on high priority. Anything that causes performance issues is a high priority for us.
And we will have the links to both threads on our description after the show's been up and done with production. Or what little production we actually do. But anyway, moving on to something else here that's been kind of irking the community for quite a long while. And this is something that has been touching everybody lately. And the thread, the DPS Obsession, has got everybody's attention now in discussing this. So what I want to do, gentlemen, is could we get a brief overview of this entire thing here with the DPS crowd versus the anti-DPS crowd versus the people who are just getting into the game and trying to figure out what to do. Is the game DPS centric? Is there anything else to do within the game itself? And why is DPS so important? Please kick this off.
It's just kind of disappointing that there's even a schism or like sects in the first place. There doesn't have to be. I've kind of always been of the opinion that if you can pull your weight in what you're playing and you're not letting down the team specifically, if you're not compelling other folks to carry you, then
Stand by,
you're doing
folks. It looks like we may
well
have some
enough.
audio technical difficulties, even though I keep hearing him streaming.
Uh,
Can everybody else in the audience hear him?
He was breaking up a little bit on my end, not much though.
Very slightly.
everything okay?
It sounds okay now.
Interesting. It's just disappointing to me that there's a schism in the first place. TLDR, why can't we all just get along?
I believe all the issues come back from before when I started playing the game. Isn't this like really deep-seated one crowd versus the other crowd from going way back in the when from like years ago in this game? And do you guys think that still pretty much exists? This elitism with DPS, does that still exist? Because from my perspective, it doesn't. And I think these are really deep-seated issues from the past that aren't really that relevant anymore.
I think they still do.
It does still exist, but I mean, not to put too fine a point on it, and not in anyone that we interact with.
Hmm. Well, I know for a fact in the DPS channels ourselves, we've got one of the rules to say that DPS shaming, we look very, very down on DPS shaming, and we come down heavy on people that do it. And I think Cam can
Historically,
back
I'm
me
the
up on that.
same way. Historically, I tend to moderate anything that I've got, moderation ability to with that same outlook. I don't really tolerate it. I know the rest of the Reddit chat admins and RSTO and STO builds, none of us really tolerate it. We definitely don't tolerate shaming. I think most folks that don't do adequate DPS, like the folks you see maybe in pugs that do 2 or 3k DPS, literally have no idea that they're doing such a low number. They're not parsing themselves. It's the very casual player that you're seeing there. So that's not really the type of player that the show is reaching out to. The type of player the show is reaching out to is the type of person that maybe wants to learn more about what they're doing. Maybe not just damage, but science, magic, and all kinds of fun stuff. To learn is I think why we're all here.
There is, okay, I want to get a little bit in depth into this, so I might be talking for a bit here, but there is definitely elitism in the game, and there are elites in the game. Now there is a difference between that, and there is shaming, there is DPS, double-edged sword. What I mean by that is, yes, you will find the odd case of a high DPSer looking down or patronizing or putting down someone who isn't as high DPS as they are. But it's very, very rare. The other part of that is that you have people who are very low DPS, and I'm talking about below 10k DPS, probably below 5k DPS, who have this tendency to because they are such low DPSers and because they have a tendency to be carried, if they get into a match where there's no one to carry them, they get a little bit frustrated and take it out on the rest of the team. This is the biggest amount, or this is like the most amount of people
I've
I've
seen that.
And I can see them because I always have my parser running. I always have that little window open and I can see how much everyone is doing. And most of the time, 9 times out of 10, the person who rages the most is at the bottom of that DPS chart. And I've seen it over and over and over again. Most of the time, the people at the top of the charts, they don't care. They don't give a flying F, really. If they want to actually help out, they will either volunteer information, but that is actually pretty rare as well, because there is the problem, if you volunteer information to someone, then they're just going to hit you with my playstyle. I just play for fun. I don't play for DPS. Blah blah blah. That type of thing, you know.
Well,
So
that's all well and
That's
good,
pretty much
but,
that's pretty much why I stopped volunteering information because of that
but
response.
don't join team content where you're expected to carry a slice of the load if you know, like, I understand if you want to play the game casually, that's just fine, that's fun, but you have to realize that your actions impact others in a team game.
exactly. Now,
Agreed.
here's the thing, Mikey. You will remember this. Me and you have been friends for a long time.
Many
Like,
years, actually.
yeah, we've known each other for a few years, all right? And you remember when I first became part of the Reddit community, part of RSTO. And
I
RSTO.
do remember all of that, yes.
So here's the thing. Back then, they were really, really against DPS shaming. They still are, okay?
Yeah.
So,
Still are.
you know,
But
anyone who does...
the feel has changed. It's not the same. You know, DPS shaming has been redefined or rearticulated a little bit since those days.
Yes. Now, just the example I want to give, you know, if just the hint of DPS shaming, you don't have to actually imply anything or say anything, just the hint of DPS shaming or just a hint that you're looking down at someone would, get people all riled up. And it would be the typical Reddit circle jerk, torches and pitchforks, and people would jump out and, oh, DPS shamer, you're such an elitist, whatever. And I had that problem way back when, to the point where I even got banned for about 6 months out of our STO builds. But the thing was, back then, if someone wants to...
I think that was also... Tempers got a little bit heated on all sides, and
yes.
That was unfortunate. I really did my best to fix that, diffuse it, and I hope that didn't lead to any long-term bad feelings with anybody.
No, that's ancient history, but I'm just giving an example here.
Yeah, it really is. That's years ago.
Years and years ago. But the example I want to give, so like I said, just a hint of DPS shaming would get people all riled up. But, if someone came up and started talking about those high DPSers and, just insulting and throwing mud and feces, whatever, at the high DPSers, no one would have blinked an eye back then. It was perfectly fine to shame the high DPSers. It was pretty much...
There was a lot of that back then.
There was a lot of, and
there was a lot of that back then.
And at certain points, I would report posts, and I would press the report button and say, "All right, well, this is DPS shaming. This is just the same as the other type." And some of the mods will be like, "Well, no, we can't do anything about it." And that's changed. That has definitely changed now. That's a different story now.
That has changed, and I know exactly why it's changed. I could probably tell you, it's because of something that I've always known, or something that's not news to me, but I guess it's news to everybody else, that these high DPS people, almost to a person, I mean, I'm not saying everybody's really this way, but almost all of them are very, very open and willing to share knowledge.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm still going on here, but let's look at the forums. Just the forums themselves, moving away from Reddit. Every single week, almost every couple of days, you will see a post pop up just deriding the DPSers in one form or another. Every single week, it's like clockwork. Sometimes it's every 2 days you'll see a post about that. How many times, or when was the last time you've seen a post DPS shaming the low DPSers? How often does that pop up on the forums?
I've actually seen a couple of those beforehand.
I can't even remember the last time one of those popped up. It's been a while.
Neither can I.
And I guess it's a matter of the population. I mean, let's say there's 100,000, 150,000. I'm just, picking numbers out of my armpits. Players in this game. Okay, let's be fair. It's probably like about 500,000 people playing this game, whatever. The amount of DPSers out there, the amount of high DPSers is in the few thousands. Maybe 4,000 to 5,000? So it's a very small percentage of that. The actual percentage of douchebag assholes you're going to get from those few thousand people, the absolute number is going to be very small. But if you look
But
at the casual
statistically, you're still
sides,
going to have them, unfortunately.
yeah, of course, you're going to have the same percentage of douchebags in the casual group as you are in the high DPSers group. But because the high DPSers is such a small number, the absolute number is going to be small. Where in the casuals, and for a point, I was calling them elitist casuals because that's what it seemed like, very entitled. You're going to have a much larger number of people who are just douchebags and just, they think that, their opinion, their way of playing is the golden way. And this is something that you will see a lot. And it comes back to that little phrase, I play for fun, I don't play for XXX, whatever it is. Yeah. And this comment in itself is the most selfish, self-entitled, narcissistic comment anyone can make. And I'm just saying it out there. If you've said this comment, you are an asshole.
Wait,
Because
but I've
have
said
to
this
care
comment.
about the team.
But
You
I've
have
said
to
this
care
have
comment.
to
about
care
other
about
people.
the team.
You have to
Yeah.
consider what other people consider to be fun. Because let's face it, this is a game we all play for fun. And whatever you consider to be fun, I could give a flying fuck about.
But I've said this comment before. Seriously, guys, come on.
Well, we've said it before in like a joking matter. I mean, we joke between ourselves. We're making fun of those people that say this comment. I play for fun. I don't play for whatever it is. No, you're a dumbass. We all play for fun. This is a game.
It's fun for me to be good at what I do.
How many times I've been chopped down by saying to people that you're in a team environment. What you do affects the rest of us. If you're in an elite or an advanced queue and you're not doing you're not playing any pressure on the rest actually makes the game advanced queue and you're not doing you're not playing any pressure on the rest advanced queue and you're not doing
Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. Alright, can this thing be fixed once and for all? Why is OBS breaking on me? I don't know, it just stopped doing it and it just, my side went dead and this side went dead. Nah. No, it's not. No, it's not. Hang on. I'm gonna restart OBS. It should be live.
what's
Sorry
the
for
delay?
that.
10 seconds, yeah?
We're live.
Sorry for the delay, folks. My software cracked. Yeah. That's what happens when we don't have a chief engineer. Anyway, continue on.
Can you guys hear us? Blah 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 blah.
All good.
Oh,
Okay,
okay,
beautiful.
All good.
Looks like we got it back.
So what was I saying? I was saying about how I used to have pitchforks running at me whenever I sort of suggested that you're in a team environment, what you do affects the rest of the team, and for you to say, well, this is my play style, I play for fun. That's all good and everything. That's what we all do. Exactly what Cam was saying before. That's what we all do. But like, if you're bringing a tier 4 ship,
I have no fun whatsoever with it.
yeah, if you're bringing a tier 4 ship into an elite queue like Corfairs, and you have trouble holding down one of your flanks in the Benthans, we all have to scamper around to try and recover that, and that ruins the game for the rest of us. So, and it's been made even worse recently by Cryptic's changes to optionals in advanced queues. They don't fail the advanced queues anymore. So now you have that flood of people who were just in normal, and they were forced to stay in normal until they got better to get into advanced. Now people are just going straight to advanced, and it's the game's back to where it was 9 months ago, in my opinion. It can be quite frustrating, and that has led to great swaths of the community retreating to private channels again.
Yep.
And I think that's bad for the game, in my opinion.
Yeah,
example-
it is because you don't get the opportunity to play with a wide variety of people that way.
And for example, just as what we've seen, the current long-term record of an ISA due to these changes is 1 hour and 7-minute runtime on an ISA pug with one of our friends.
Yep, I've seen that.
Because of that, those are times that we should never see, and we're seeing them now.
Now to completely say that, okay, not everybody wants to run an ISA in 90 seconds, okay? That's fine, okay? But for an ISA to run for an hour, that's, it's very frustrating for people, especially people who only come on, you don't know what everyone's circumstances are. They might only have a limited time during the week to come on and get their marks, to get their 8K deal, and then play on the weekend, and then that sort of thing. You just don't know what everyone's circumstances are. If you're one of those people who has a higher DPS person approach you and say, we could help you with this build, we noticed that you were struggling there, don't get your back up straight away. We are there to help. We do pass on a lot of knowledge, and we do it for the benefit of the entire game, not just to stroke our own ego saying that we know something you don't know. So, that's my 2 cents worth in.
As a matter of fact, we do everything we can to get that knowledge out there through everything that we're doing. We're almost...
Hello. OBS keeps crashing for some reason behind the scenes. Yeah, it's back. Hang on, gents. Hang on. For some reason, it was playing and now it's stopped again. What is going on with OBS? I should be hearing now.
Okay. So, what was I saying? An example. The problem is they have no clue. So here's an example of something that I run into quite a lot, alright? Gateway to Grethor Advanced. This is what happens. It starts out 4 people. Usually I wait to see what they're going to do, if they're going to split or if they're all going to go to one side. So 9 times out of 10, you see a group of people, all 4 of them, will head to the left side. When I see that, I'm like, okay, I'm going to head right and I'm going to solo it. So I'll head right, I'll solo the right side, I don't have any problems doing that. And usually, most of the time, the 4 people on the left side can do it by themselves within the limited time period to get the optional. Not all the time, but a good amount of the time. Now, usually, when that first phase is done, you get into phase 2, where you have 2 lanes and transport ships moving down those lanes. This is when you want to split the team. You want to have 3 people on one side and 2 people on the other side. Is this what usually happens? No. 8 times out of 10, all 4 of those people on the left side, all 4 of them will just drop the left side and all of them go to the right side. This shows that all 4 of those people are clueless. They have no idea what they're doing in a GGA. So at that point, it's up to me to just leave the right side because there's already 5 people there and go solo the left side all by myself because no one knows what they're doing. And what's worse is those 4 people, 5 times out of 10, none of them will go after the radiation gates. They'll just sit there fighting the heralds. These people do not belong in advanced. They barely belong in normal. So this is just one example. And you can find similar things all over the game. And this is a problem. It's
just on Grethel, have you guys noticed this with Grethel where people are actually, if the first section is not done perfectly, people are just leaving?
Yes.
And they're not getting leaver penalties for it?
That's been happening quite a lot
There must
lately.
be some queues that are not getting lever penalties at the moment because I notice it in Grethel all the time. If the first section is not done properly, one person leaves. And I PM him saying, why'd you leave? He goes, because I have only got a limited time. The last response I got to a PM to someone who left was, I've only got a limited time to play. You guys weren't doing it properly. I need to find a team that can do it properly. And that sort of backs up what we're saying.
Yeah.
Like there are people doing advanced that shouldn't be. They haven't spent enough time in normal to understand how the queue should work, how that match should work. And like Cryptic, can you please analyze your queues and make sure that the lever penalties are turned on for all your queues, because I actually don't think they are. CCA is definitely not. Grethel is definitely not. It might be good. Well, ISA definitely is.
ISA is.
It might be, yeah.
I've noticed recently when I've just, not necessarily when I go and start a new match, but I'll queue up for Infected and it'll dump me into a map that's already going. It'll be 10 minutes in and I'll get in. There's 2 other people. That has happened so many times over the last week.
I have noticed that. Yeah, that has happened in the past couple of weeks to me as well. So people are either not getting applied the penalty or copping the penalty just to get out of that match. So if that's what's actually happening, if people are actually leaving and copping the penalty to get out of it, that just shows that there is something really wrong with people joining queues that they shouldn't be joining. Okay, and we're not looking down on those people in any way, shape, or form. Like all of us in this room, all of us in this room were noobs at one point. Okay, like I was one of the biggest, and I'll put my hand up and say that first. I was, and for many parts, probably in Cam's eyes, I still am. Okay, but we are all learning every day in this game. But putting yourself into a situation where it's affecting other people is not good for the game. It's you take it out on the game, saying STOs. It's just difficult to play in a team environment because there's no matchmaking. We understand the matchmaking system is probably never going to come because it's a very hard thing to code. But there needs to be some sort of protection between the normal, advanced, and elite queues where this sort of thing needs to be as limited as much as possible because it is frustrating a lot of people out there.
Just a simple gate where people have to complete a normal 10 times successfully to get advanced.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
actually a very good idea. Good.
Just gonna wait for this to.
You're on live.
All right, we're back, and I was just putting down the PvPers because they deserved it because they QQ a lot. So, and let's be honest about it. You know, if you pay attention to some of the PvP channels in game, or even some of the PvP section of the forums, you know what I'm talking about.
Organized QQ.
Yeah, I'm not gonna name any particular channels out there, but it always seems like, you know, this has happened to me quite a bit as well. So I'm just gonna give like a personal experience where I'll be doing something in game, for example, Azure Nebula Advanced, where I'll go in and I'll just take out a spawn by myself, and for some reason this will piss off someone in the team, and they'll send me a message. This has actually happened where they'll send me a message, private tell, saying, you think you're so hot with your PvE ship, but why don't we go into an arena? Let's go do a 1v1. PvP at me, bro. I'll show you what my PvE ship. I can do 3k DPS and I can kill you instantly. And this is...
Same team, bro.
I think Spencer's crying right now. Are you okay, Spencer?
Oh yes, I'm fine.
Did I hurt your feelings, Spencer?
It probably did.
Hey, Snipey's did more PvP than myself recently.
Sorry, but I'm not sorry.
One thing that's actually been brought up here, though, it's and coming from our audience, people wondering where they can find sources of information on how they can design either a ship or get a good set of ground gear going, and then go hit the queues. I mean, would it be hard for Cryptic within the tutorials to say, okay, for more information, for more supplemental information, go here to the forums or here to this tutorial feed, and somebody can make a Foundry mission and then make that official for the game as far as basic 101.
I wouldn't care if Cryptic lifted all of the work we've done in STO builds and everything to put it in their own tutorial stuff if it was in the game. I wouldn't care if they lifted 100% of it. Because
1000% agree.
the players need it. I don't care what they steal as long as they put it in so that players can learn.
It'll be something rather than nothing.
Yep, they can have it.
I mean, it's there. We're volunteering our own time to do this.
It's the result of a lot of people's work.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I know I've been putting down PvPers here, but I wasn't here last week, and you guys managed to squeak by and talk about PvP last week. I guess
which was all correct. All correct, Cam.
It was awesome.
I see. So I'm just balancing it out and just pointing out that a lot of PvPers are just not right in the head. I've said it. There you go.
Hey.
Well, you're having a great show, Cam. But anyway.
Hey, you're wrong, buddy. You're wrong. Period. Well, there's something else we want to say about this before we close out this subject here. Actually, there are two different things here. One, Timberwolf has done something very interesting, and I'll let him speak that one.
Well, yeah, that was because there's been so much, especially because of this post, the DPS obsession and the high DPS hate. I mean, I even saw it on a explanation run I did just a couple of days ago, where I was explaining team mechanics and everything else. I decided, you know what? With all this high DPS hate, let's see just how low we can go. And it got spawned by one of our friends, Nar.
Nimble mod.
Nar had a low parse, and we had seen a couple of people posting in 10K their low parses. So we finally made it a goal. How low can we parse and get it onto the combat log charts? How low can we go? The current record has been set by me at 0.58. No K, just 0.58 DPS.
Most impressive.
Let me tell you
and
one
no
thing.
AFK penalty, mind you, right?
No AFK penalty because it was a private match. It did upload to the parser. And I do want to add, it is harder to build and strategize for low DPS builds like this than it is for high DPS. Because you're literally having to ignore your spacebar or any of your damage dealing abilities. Quite honestly, it was 2 turret shots, one at the very beginning, one at the very end with attack cubes at about 5% or less, because you want to get one final hit in right before the thing dies, thereby destroying it. And pretty much the entire run, I was healing the tanks. That was it. I Mark 1 disruptor turret and nothing but heals. And you have to this was insanely tough for me because I'm looking at my spacebar and I was looking at my inventory with all the weapons I have at my disposal, and I'm going, Jesus, if I could just get out of combat, I'd slot all of these and blow everything up. So it was really tough. But I am just as proud of my lowest as I am my highest now. And yeah, Theorycraft to get lower. That's my challenge.
Wow.
You found your zen.
Yes,
I have. I have my high and my low. I have my center.
He's crazy. That's all I gotta say. He's just flat out howling at the moon crazy. Seriously. But
so we can now call you the half DPS kid.
Well, no, what I've taken on the forums is I'm a true min-maxer because I went for the absolute minimum and I've gone for the absolute maximum.
It's true.
By definition, he's a min-maxer. Well, one other thing that's been brought up, especially within our chat right here, and I posted this on the forums, is that why is there so much vitriol with people on both sides? And here's what I wrote on the forums, and getting straight into it. Herein lies the problem. Some people with bad attitudes and low self-esteem were taught how to design a ship in DPS. Then they go off and DPS shame others who don't measure up to them. This alienates those people who don't know how from those who do, and it can get very frustrating when you're trying to do better while you're enjoying the game. This breeds animosity to anyone who can do high DPS. If you're trying to figure out what's going on with the game, you're trying to learn, and you're going into these queues, and then somebody else comes in there and says, why can't you do this? You're not carrying your weight. You're an idiot. You're bad. Blah, blah, blah. Get on my level. That makes you look at them and say, oh, you're an elitist prick. What gives you the right to do this? I'm trying to learn and figure this thing out. And there are some people who have bad attitudes. I do a lot of pug queues. I live the pug life. You know, I enjoy it. And I go in there to see, you know, what people are doing and what they're trying to learn. And it's figured, okay, maybe I can learn something from them, even if it's what are people struggling with the most. And some people are afraid to ask questions because they think that the people who are doing better than them will berate them. How dare you not know what to do in this queue? How dare you not be able to pull over 10k DPS? How dare you show up here, whether it's normal or advanced? You're bad, you're horrible, go away.
What's sad is the exact opposite is true. You ask a question to a high DPS, more than likely, 95% of the time, more than likely, you'll have people throwing. Yeah, you'll have people throwing information at you, which is which is quite sad because we love sharing our knowledge and we want people to lift their game. You know, it's sharing that knowledge and helping someone improve the game. It's actually quite satisfying, you know, knowing that you've had an impact on that person's time in Star Trek Online.
And even for people who want to do the whole build variety bit, it's like, well, I'm not with these guys who do all beams and hit that meta, or, you know, all torps and hit that meta, or just straight tanking. I want to do this combo here. Guess what? If you come up and say, look, I like to do this, I want to be able to maximize it as best as I can while still enjoying the game and having fun with it, we can help you with that. That's not a problem. There are other people out there who can help you with it. That's not going to be a problem. But you're going to have to be upfront with yourself. You're going to have to be willing to put forth the effort. And you're going to also have to understand the limitations and have realistic expectations. Also, do not put up with the bad attitudes of others and turn it around on them and say, oh, look, you're going to have a bad attitude. I'm going to go and do something else and it's just be rotten to the core. No, that's not how it works. Don't be, I'm not going to care about anything else because this guy's a high DPS, or I'm going to do as much, I'm going to let him carry me, or I'm going to be rotten, not help out the rest of the team. You're not helping. That is just as bad as those people who DPS shame. Both sides need to grow up.
Agreed, sir. Agreed.
No, everyone needs to get on my level.
Moving on, though, probably the
moving
Tribble
on.
patch notes and the Admiralty System. I believe Timber's been playing around in that.
Yes, please.
Wow.
Well, from what I've tested, and not only have I tested it, but Cam has tested it quite a bit as well, and I've noticed a few of my friends have tested it. It's a very interesting system, to say the least. They've got all your ships already rare. The rarities are already pretty much out. There are no epic quality ships as of yet. The assumption, and I will say that, the assumption is the only epic qualities will be the final rewards at present. There may be some down the road. But I did a video on it. I know Cam did. It's just really interesting as far as how you're having to manage your fleets. It's literally is you're managing not just what you're trying to get as a reward, you're actually managing a fleet as far as your maintenance times. Because one of the big things with this system now is your maintenance times is basically like an officer in sickbay. Your lowest time is a tier 1 or tier 2 ship. Its card is going to have 90-second cooldown before you can use it again. Your highest level ship that we have is tier 6. It has a 36-hour cooldown. So you're having to manage, if you want the big reward duty officer mission in this Admiralty, and you want to get the most from it, you're going to want to use those.
Streaming now. Sorry about that. Restarted everything. Figured it'd be quicker that way. Back on the air. Sorry for that, folks. My apologies. Bluetooth has been screwing up since the VPN. So, let's see if a clean restart does it. Resume, please, Timber, on the Admiralty System.
Alright, so where I left off was you can upgrade the ships. Whenever you get a T5U or a tier 6 ship, you of course you can upgrade its masteries. Well, as you upgrade the mastery level on a starship, it also upgrades the stats on the card. It basically replaces it with a newer card with higher stats. So it does make it lucrative to level up your starships because it's going to give you higher rankings for the ships in Admiralty. But I will throw this out there. It is something that most of us has noticed as we're playing with it on Tribble. The current way it's working, if you unbox a starship, doesn't matter what kind of starship it is, if you unbox it, after you unbox it, go to the Admiralty System first, it'll give you your card. If you simply unbox the starship and dismiss, If you did not go to the Admiralty System first, you will not receive the card. So it's imperative when you're unboxing, you unbox, go to your Admiralty tab and claim your card. Then if you want to get rid of the ship, you can. We've noticed several of our friends do it with about 10 Mirror Universe ships and a few Lobby ships on Tribble, and they did not get the cards, and they have to recopy a tune to do that. So, but overall, my experience with the system, I'm actually really looking forward to it when it goes live, when everything is 100%. I'm looking forward to the rewards that it's going to be giving. To me, it's a fantastic system, and I like how the management is going to be for it. It's more critical thinking of what you're going to plan out in advance.
Now, with that system marking down what ships you've owned, even if you dismiss them there, makes me wonder if it'll be possible to carry that system over to potentially allow us to reclaim some of our Lobby lockbox promotional ships like that.
Could be possible. Would not be out of the realm of possibility, I would think. It depends, I guess, solely on Cryptic and Perfect World.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to put it, as in pulling the Lobby or lockbox ship from the actual card instead. That's an interesting way to put it. Now, just to go on with what Timber was saying, yes, I have tested it out. And yes, this is a problem that I noticed as well, and I don't believe this is working as intended. I think it's just because the system is still being polished as it is. So when you log into Tribble, it will instantly take all the ships that you have in your active roster and turn them into Admiralty cards. But if you unbox a ship, it doesn't automatically get converted into your Admiralty roster. I think that is a problem. I think that's going to be fixed eventually. So I think what it does, what they have it set right now, the hook is in the duty officer window. Basically, you click the duty officer window that pops up that thing, and you click on the roster, and when you click on the roster, it'll go through your active ship list and scan it and say, oh, well, this is new here, let's add a card for that. And this is probably how it works. It probably also checks the masteries of the ship as well to see if anything needs updating. So this is probably how it works right now. I think in the future they should add something where the check isn't just done at that one particular point. It's done whenever you actually unbox a ship.
I do agree with that.
So that, yeah. Basically, so you unbox a ship, automatically you'll get it there instead of having to, like, especially if you don't have a lot of ship slots. Like myself, I'm pretty much filled up on my ship slots, so I basically have to dismiss one ship and then start opening them up one at a time to actually get the cards in there, because most of the ships I have are not ships that I can actually dismiss. I will lose them forever.
One question that I have here, sorry to interrupt.
Sure,
Something has been brought up to me from another source here. The part where it says captains will only ever have access to a single Admiralty ship per class of ship they have access to. Like saying if I have a tier 6 Phantom, that's an escort, right? That's, what is it, class of escort, and only the tier 6 Phantom will be eligible for me as far as a card, and the fleet version is different if they ever release a fleet version for it.
There is a fleet version.
Yeah, sorry, there is a fleet version. Yeah, sorry, I'm thinking of a different ship at the same time. Sorry. So there's a fleet version for it. So I can get a tier 6 Phantom card and a tier 6 fleet Phantom card. Say that 3 times fast. Fleet Phantom, fleet Phantom, fleet. Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So I can get a fleet Phantom card as well as a Phantom card.
Yes.
And that's it.
With the lower ones, you can get, use the Sovereign, for example. You can have the Standard Sovereign, a Fleet Sovereign, and a Mirror Sovereign. And those are 3 separate cards.
Okay. So what was the restriction here? We'll only ever have access to a single Admiralty ship per class of ship they have access to.
Well, you just said it there. Um, the Phantom itself is considered a class of ship,
Okay,
so you can only have one Phantom card in there.
gotcha. Gotcha.
So you get your Phantom, you got the card for it, you dismiss your Phantom, you open up a new Phantom, you're not going to get another Phantom card. You already have it in there. However, if you get the Fleet Ship module and you get a Fleet Phantom, then you have a Phantom and a Fleet Phantom card on your thing. You
Okay, so
dismiss
no
your Fleet
duplicates.
Phantom. Yeah, exactly. No duplicates at all. Now here's the interesting thing. What if you have like an Intel Cheshire and then you get yourself a Command Cheshire?
Ooh,
Those may
gotcha.
count. Those may.
That's
Also,
a good
with
question.
C-Store, with the C-Store 3-packs that we've seen, the pilot ships, the command, the Odysseys, the scimitars, each individual ship counts as a card. So you can have a Science Odyssey card and a Tactical Odyssey card.
So, with the Shazar, for example, if I recall, somewhere, I think it might have been Bordkiss, responded with the strike ship and recon ship that they would be separate ships, or separate cards.
Makes sense. Okay, that makes sense. I'm just going to read back up in the chat here. Someone said that the Admiralty System equals the WoW Garrison follower system behind a paywall. No, it's not behind a paywall because you can get everything for free in there. It's not pay to win. You don't have to spend any money at all. You don't have to spend anything at all to get the ships in there. You can just have the ships that you get free from leveling up, and you can just use those. You don't need a lot of ships in there. You can do very well with the low tier ships, tier 1 ships, tier 2 ships, tier 3 ships. And in fact, having those low tier ships are to your advantage because you do not want to be throwing your high-end expensive ships, the low B lockbox tier 6 ships, say that 5 times fast, or even your tier 5 ships on your Admiralty missions all the time because you're going to basically run out of ships to use. Some of those ships have a day and a half cooldown timer. Some of them have like a full day cooldown timer. So you really want to be using your low tier ships. I remember the first Tour Duty mission I saw earlier today was a mission that was 10, 10, and 10, which basically you could have used a tier 1 Connie on that and just, got that out of the way right away. And as soon as that's done, that ship comes back and it has like a minute cooldown or
90
maybe
second. It's about 90 seconds.
Okay, a minute and a half cooldown. So some of these really easier missions, the missions come with the varying degrees of rarity. So you have the common missions, uncommon missions, rare, very rare, ultra rare, etc., that type of thing. Of course, the lower rarity of the mission, the less reward you get, and possibly the less time the mission itself takes. Although I don't think that the time required for the mission is related to the rarity. So the lower rarity missions, you probably want to use the lower tier ships and maybe fewer of the lower tier ships because you have a choice of using 1, 2, or 3 ships when you send them off to do a mission. You don't need to put all 3 ships in there. You can just put 1 ship and send them out. So it's not really a paywalled or pay-to-win system. It is a alternate progression, I would put it at. It's not like the DOF system at all. Or I would say it is similar to the DOF system, but a little bit more in-depth. So you get better rewards from it than from the doffing system. It's probably what the doffing system should have been. I do agree it is very similar to what the garrison system is in WoW. Very much so. Did we lose the stream? Someone's saying we lost it.
We might have.
I'm not seeing any loss here. We're still streaming.
Nature guy, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Showing, yep, we're still
Okay.
showing
Yeah.
active.
So you can hear. So I wouldn't really jump right up and say, "Oh, this is another paywall, another cash grab, whatever." Um, it's just an alternate progression route, and you know what? You don't have to participate. If you do not like it, you don't have to participate in it. You're not going to lose anything else if you don't participate. There's nothing in the system that's really going to give you an edge in the game. It's just a few extra rewards. You can get some extra dilithium, some extra EC, some, it's not mandatory. Um, that being said, for someone like myself who has currently about 29 ships sitting in my Admiralty roster, and that's about half the ships that I can possibly put in there, and figure I can probably go up to 60 something ships in there. It's certainly interesting. It might mean I can probably progress a little bit faster. Not quite sure if that's quite possible or not. Good for alts and doffing then? Yeah, I don't know if it is good or not yet. The system is not quite complete. But then again, if you just leveled up an alt, that's a fresh alt. You just got to level 50, level 52. I think is the start of the Admiral system, and you haven't gotten rid of any of those ships that you leveled with. Then you have what, like 5 or 6 ships sitting in your active roster. Pick up some mirror ships along the way. There you go. Fairly simple. Um, a lot of us have spent, speaking of doffing and alts here, a lot of us do have spent money on C-store ships, especially some of the lower C-store ships. I mean, who hasn't bought the Tier 1 Constitution with the retro phasers, for example? Just
Oh,
as an
those are
example.
lovely.
They're horrid. They sound horrid, but like, who doesn't have one of those, for example? So
I
yeah,
know.
so for example, you have your alt, you have level 52, you have all those free ships that you've picked up as you've leveled up, and then any of the C-store ships that you've picked up over the years of playing the game, for example.
How many Romulans have got the Valdor? The actual ship, the Valdor.
Pretty much maybe all of them, maybe.
And I do want to bring up, since the Romulans were mentioned, technically there was a lot of people posting that the Romulans would actually be crippled by this system, and in fact they have probably the largest starship pool to pull from, because depending on which words tonight, I swear, doesn't matter which faction they pick. Not only do they have all of the Romulan ships available to them, they have all the tier 1 to tier 4 ships for that faction as well. So a Romulan Fed can pick up all the tier 1 to tier 4 ships and use those in the Admiralty. Same with the KDF side. Second being Federation. Quite honestly, the only faction I could see that would have the least amount of ships for this system would be the Klingons.
I would put the Federation first ahead of the Romulans. Just to have the sheer number of endgame ships. That there's even more endgame ships than there are at the start game ships by a significant margin. Just the tier 5 ships.
This is true.
Speaking of ships, segueing into the next part here. There was a fleet in NOP Public, both Fed and Klingon side, managed by a gentleman by the name of, forgive me if I mispronounce this, Locatus of Bort. Locatus, or Locatus, whichever one it is. I believe it's Locatus of Borg. Has both the Fed side of the alliance there would be Codex Civilization Defense Squadron, and the KDF one. I haven't practiced my Klingon. I didn't have time to. Work was killing me. Tinkan Chapush Wopuk, which translate as Klingon dilithium farmers.
Yeah.
Well done.
They have got the tier 5 unlock sorry, the 5th trait slot for space and ground, if I remember correctly. And they were opening up their doors to the general public. So anybody who asked for an invite, they were literally taking people and just helping them get on and get that 5th slot. And this person literally spent, I don't even know how much time, but it was quite a lot of people asking. And it was quite a lot of time where people were asking. So, to Locatus, if I butchered your name, please forgive me. But we wanted to give you a big shout out from the show for all the work that you've done and just spending time just to bring in random strangers so they can get that 5th trait slot. Thank you very much.
Yep,
very
You
cool.
helped a lot of people
Thank you.
out there.
I was actually awake and online at the time when that popped up. It was something like 2 a.m. or 2 a.m. Eastern or something along those lines.
Yes.
I was actually replying to another question in the NOP channel, and he pops in and says, "All right, line up whoever wants the tier 3, thing, invite. Just specify whether you're Fed or Klingon." And I'm like, "Hey, I'm a Fed, and right away got in, picked it up, and it was all good. So, thank you very much, Lolcatus of Borg. Lolcatus.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, we on behalf of the show, we presented Locatus with a small token of our gratitude, and even though it's nowhere near what you and your wife have put into the Klingon side at the very least, we still want to say thank you very much for not only just doing that, which is a huge feat in and of itself, but also opening your doors up to literally strangers to help them out. So again, thank you very much. And this is what the STO community is all about. This is a shining example of it here, and we just wanted to make sure that you got the good kudos that you deserve. Moving on to a nice other presentation here. Snipey, what do you got going?
Yes. For some of you out there, probably know that I enjoy making, along with another player in Star Trek Online, like making story videos by using the demo record and demo play system. And we released our final episode this week, which does appeal to more of the RP side than anything else. And Odin was very gracious enough to let me talk it up on the show. And yeah, it's pretty much our best work yet. It's the music in it is fantastic. It's a great story. It goes for about 20 minutes, and if you watch the other episodes on it, it shows really how much that we have progressed in this area. I don't know, Odin, if you've had a chance. I sent you the link yesterday if you had a chance to watch it yet. But if you love a good story and interested in other aspects of the game, recommend that you subscribe to the channel. We'll put a link into the show notes. But Sarah and I are both very, very proud of what we've done. We've really come along in this area, and we will be further developing the channel. It's not just going to be for RP sort of stuff. We're both science heavy characters, so we'll be focusing a little bit more on the science side of the game, which doesn't get a lot of love. Everyone seems to think the Tacs are the best, but I'm sure that there are a couple on this panel here that knows that science can be really, really fun to play with, and that's probably what we're going to focus on next. But yeah, if you haven't checked it out yet, I'll put the link into the chat now. Keep an eye on Sarah Lee videos. It is a growing community of people.
Did you say story?
I did say story.
Story. How much does story increase my DPS?
Well, it can inspire you to increase your DPS. How about that?
Stole the
Ooh,
words right
inspiration
out of my
system.
mouth. It's inspiration.
It's inspirational. That's exactly right. So, yeah. And Sin Industries, yes, more Psi. That's what we need. We both think that Psi is a much underrated part of the game, and when done properly, Psi's are just so much fun to play with. So, yeah, keep an eye on our channel in the future.
You know what?
Thanks,
I do
guys.
agree with you that Psi is incredibly fun to play. and science ships are probably one of my favorite ships to fly. And the thing is, yeah, science is fun to play. It's even more fun to play as a tactical captain.
Oh,
Oh,
bad,
jeez.
Oh.
Aggro.
Wow, that was a low blow.
bad.
Wow,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
Funny, because we're gonna mention something about his video coming up here too. I do believe you get rescued by a science captain. I'm not sure though, but please tell me what you have going on with my Balkan Gaming, which, by the way, was the guy who helped influence bringing me back into Star Trek Online almost a year ago to the day, which is kind of creepy. But please continue.
Yeah. So recently, my Balkan Gaming, who has been away from the game for about 6 months or a little bit longer due to his studies, has come back and has started up his YouTube channel again. For those of you who don't know, my Balkan Gaming, his name is Hersey, does a YouTube review show for various ships and missions and stuff, pretty similar to what my channel is. Um, so I noticed he was back, and I reached out to him and say, "Hey, let's do some collaboration. Let's get work together on a couple of things." Uh, Things happen, emailed back and forth. We got together and we decided, all right, well, there's this new mission that has showed up on Tribble. It is the new ground SDF assault on Terok Nor. Now, this is an actually very interesting um, ground mission. I'm going to try to avoid too many spoilers, but it seems to take place, not 100% sure, but it seems to take place during the events of the other SDF, Counterpoint. Now, we've discussed Counterpoint before. We've done a couple of videos on it, and there's a point during that mission, Counterpoint, where you are in your ship, you pick up people from DS9, you pick up a assault team from DS9, and you drop them off in Terok Nor for them to do certain things in there. Now, the new mission, Assault on Terok Nor, we seem to be that assault team on Terok Nor. And it is very interesting, some of the stuff that's going on there. Now, I don't want to spoil it for you. The videos are out there. There's a couple of videos actually out there. But this is not your average SDF, your average ground SDF. Just like Counterpoint is not your average space SDF. There is a level of complexity here. The best way I can put it is there seems to be some raid mechanics in this ground SDF. There are things you have to do in order for the mission to progress. We only played it on normal, so there were no fail conditions, there were no exceedingly hard optionals, but it isn't all about DPS. It wasn't about just brute forcing your way right through it. And there are stuff you have to think about. There is coordination required. Like the first challenge, you kind of have to split the team up into two parts, and no, there's no cardies on there, and you kind of have to do some healing in there. That's what it looks like. It will require engineers. It'll require science. It'll require tactical captains. It's going to require a well-balanced team in there. There was another part where it's a puzzle. You have to complete a puzzle to pass on. Now, we have been talking about it on Reddit and the forums, and the puzzle part isn't something that is really going to block the way passing forward. Even if the players can't figure out the puzzle, there is a brute force approach. After the timer completes for the puzzle, you can just continue on. That's for normal. I don't know how it is for advanced. We didn't get there. In elite, if you fail the puzzle, you're probably going to fail the mission. It's interesting because the puzzle is you have to get a certain sequence of consoles, and it's random every single time. And yeah, promoting teamwork. What the heck is going on here? Now, each player, the sequence is independent for each player. So each player has their own little sequence of things. And it just requires one player to complete the sequence for you to be able to move on. So you might want to set up or decide ahead of time that this player is going to be the one on the consoles, or have two people working on the consoles with the three remaining players backing them up, protecting them from some of the other stuff that's going on. One of the other things, one of the final things, is what I consider a true raid mechanic like you would see in WoW. You have a boss that is basically invulnerable, and you have to coordinate. You need to do some coordination within the team in order to remove the boss's invulnerability. Otherwise, you're not going to get anywhere. Now, looking back on this, we've talked about it, we've discussed it. Most pugs are not going to be able to complete all the optionals, if any of the optionals at all on this thing. It's just way too complicated for pugs. Most players in the game are just, apply forehead to spacebar and, just tunnel vision everything and disregard any kind of mechanics. I guess we were talking about it a little bit earlier on the show. But for those of us who do want a challenge, who do want to think, who do want more teamwork in a queue, something more than just DPS through it, brute force your way through it, this is the queue for you. It's similar to Counterpoint. Counterpoint's the same thing. We played it before, and it's more than just pure DPS. If you just go into Counterpoint and you try to DPS your way through it, you're going to have a rough time. You're probably going to end up exploding a lot from all the feedback pulses and reflections and whatever it is in there. This is the same thing. Now, when you come to think about it, a lot of people on the forums have been requesting more complex STFs, but do they actually want it? That is the question I am posing here.
How long before there's this queue is too hard thread on the forums, do you think?
1 week.
That's so sad for this game if they change it, you just got me really excited listening to your description of those two queues. I'm upset now that I haven't updated Tribble in a while. So I'm going to definitely go and check it out. But yeah, my opinion to Cryptic is hold your ground on this. Let's try and lift up the community to succeed through this. Don't bend to some of the QQers who sell too hard straight away.
Let's challenge the players and ignore the whiners.
Exactly. Like what you did with Corfez. Corfez was a very, very challenging mission. Admittedly, that Bentham's bug did sour it. It made it almost impossible to do if you got Bentham. So actually, it was almost impossible to do. But you softened it up way too much. You can't actually call Corfez an elite queue anymore. It's not elite. It's between normal and advanced for me. So I don't know what other guys think of that, but it's that's what it is for me. So this sounds really exciting and a really good way for the game to be progressing, in my opinion.
Absolutely. It's going to be the only ground STF I play for a while because of the mechanics that are actually challenging, and it's not just pew-pew and you're done. You've got to coordinate with your team. You've got to pay attention to what you're doing at all times. That's why I like both the queues. It's not just face roll. It's think. I like that.
I just want to point out that the queue will be completable, even if the team is just completely clueless pugs. There are triggers in there that will let you continue if you keep on failing whatever the team objective is or whatever the puzzle is. I think it was like maybe 5 minutes or so on the puzzle part, and then it lets you go by. You failed the optional, but it'll let you continue the mission. However, the issue is, what I believe, a lot of people are not going to be able to actually get the optionals. Most teams will not get the optionals. And I'll agree with you on Corfez. The first few parts, part 1, 2, and 3 of that is easier than advanced until you get to the boss fight. The boss fight is something else. The boss fight is an elite fight. Just because the longer the fight gets, the harder it becomes. Basically a DPS race. You have to kill the boss in Corfez as quickly as possible with as much DPS as possible right at the start before he starts teleporting. Otherwise it gets harder, because if you do it slowly, you'll notice the boss, each time he teleports farther and further away. And
it gets really hard.
Yeah. So that part is, I guess, elite. The rest of it is fairly simple.
Sternification just made a really, really good point, and something that I've been in the chat here, something that I've been bleating on about for a while. When when the fail conditions were on the advanced queues and you failed, there wasn't really much in explanation of why it failed. You know, you had to really keep an eye on your mini window to understand why it failed, and I think that's another element of what's missing from the game, because a lot of people, once they fail, they just warp out and not actually chat with the team and understand why they failed. So if there's like a big pop-up that says you failed because of this, that could also help. But with the way the game is at the moment, where there's no fail conditions in advance, not really necessary. But, you know, my fingers are crossed that those sort of conditions sort of come back. But with some sort of greater explanation of why the mission failed. That's just a sort of segue to the side. Sorry, Ken.
Well, they obviously failed because they weren't at my level. They need to get good.
Oh, really?
Oh, jeez, you are
Really?
on fire this week.
Really?
Wow, got to call the Mounties to take care of you, mate. You're on fire.
Somebody get the ERP
We're
hologram
gonna
up
have
and
to
running.
take a fire
Tip a
extinguisher
garbage
in the
can.
comments now.
It won't help. He's on his
Seriously.
moose. Get out of the way.
Yeah,
Oh,
isn't
man.
your moose not giving you love, mate? Because you're just really crappy this week. You got
You know,
the acid tongue going.
On a segue to that with the fail conditions, there's something a little bit, and I'm going to bring this up here, CCA. If you do CCA too quickly, you will not get all of the bonus objectives completed. It's something with the logic gate with it, where if you kill it after the first wave, but before the second wave goes through, it doesn't say, oh, you've made it past the second wave, and you've also killed the entity. Congratulations, you've met all the bonus objective requirements. No, it's just, here you go. Here's the marks for your first objective requirement completed. That's it.
But isn't
So-
that only happening because
Holy crap,
Torps
Marshall, you found your miscellaneous chips.
I think what happened, the chief engineer snuck around here and just dropped it in. So, yes, we do thank you very much, chief engineer, for repairing our emergency role-playing hologram.
Hey,
Why you activated it without my consent is beyond me.
We've been through this. I can turn myself on.
Not with the isolinear chips out of the system. No, you can't.
this is a family-friendly show, Alan, and let's see
We
what's
should-
down.
We should look at his autonomous protocols, really.
Do tip a garbage can, so...
I did switch around the phase inverter. Let me go change that back. I'll be back in a minute.
Oh, good grief.
I just want to point out that I wasn't here last week, so I have to double the grump this week, just to make it. Plus a little bit extra as interest.
Oh, damn. Anyway,
Star Trek Design Your Ship Part 2.
Star Trekker, please tell us the whole design to Starship bit. Wait, did the next generation fall asleep again?
I think
He
he's
fell asleep.
asleep.
Unbelievable.
What? the design your ship.
Yeah.
Yes, mate.
Hey, he's
Okay,
awake.
Which two was it this week? I don't remember.
Gamma and Delta.
Yeah.
Oh,
Your
yeah,
favorite ship, Delta.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Delta looks terrible.
But tell us something nice about it. I mean, seriously. What do people do? Just go on Twitter and vote for it? Is that it?
That's what I did.
Yeah, or you could vote on a forum post.
Go Team Gamma, basically.
Yeah.
I'm upset Beta didn't win. That's... I'm
Beta
done.
lost?
I'm going... Where's my garbage can?
Oh, don't tip it! Don't tip it! No!
He
All
did.
your bags of milk will fall on top of you, mate.
Oh, So wrong. Anyway, somebody please fix this man some craft dinner before he cries. All right, we're enough for the Canadian jokes. But so, with the design your ship contest going on, people are voting for the ships that are facing off against each other.
Actually, the Gamma versus Delta ends here in an hour and 15 minutes. So if you haven't voted, I'll drop in this link here if you want to post it on the.
And if you haven't voted yet, please vote Team Gamma. I don't know, something not right.
Well, you don't have to worry about it because Team Gamma's got 67%. So
Is the Gamma one the pizza cutter?
No, it's not. Thank God. Which is sad for SOB because he wants that pizza cutter for all his cheese pizza.
Really? Really? Seriously? Wow.
He loves
Alright,
that
folks.
shit.
Go vote for your ship. The link's in there for all of our live chat viewers. For everybody out there, you'll probably miss it once you hear this message, so you're going to have to vote for the next set of ships there. I'm trying to remember, was Sigma the one that I liked the most? Because it actually made sense.
Yes.
I think so. I think it was Sigma, yeah.
Yeah,
It was
so,
Sigma.
Kinetic community, mount up. We're voting for Sigma.
All 12 people, go!
Buddy, that number's grown. That number's grown so much right now in the last 3 weeks. Your head can't even wrap around that number.
That's only because they're using and taking advantage of Kemocite. When Kemocite's fixed, the numbers are going to just drop.
I will tell you this.
You'll have a mass exodus.
No, the true believers will be there in the power of kinetics, and they will ride through until Season 11, where we shall force our way in and have the developers listen to us and fix torpedoes and include something for torpedoes going forward on. Yeah,
Hash bug bashers.
Put the pipe down, all right? Just take it easy.
No, man. No, it's too good.
I will say with the designer ship, because it was a comment in our chat, you cannot select the bridge officer layout for this one. However, it has been said if this particular system is successful, they do have plans for KDF and Romulan designer ships along with other Federation future ships, and they are willing to get more detailed with them. So it might not be available for this one, but later on down the road we could literally design the entire starship from design to console layout. So we just have to see where this goes.
It makes sense. Keep it simple to begin with, see what sort of feedback they get from this particular initiative, and then step it up a notch for the next one. So makes perfect sense.
That works, guys.
We need to bring back Beta as a wild card.
Any closing remarks? Aside from bringing back the Beta ship that really, I don't know, man. I thought you were the chief intelligence officer. What?
Still a better love story than Twilight.
Oh, anyway.
I'll send you some poutine. Be happy.
Ooh, poutine. I'll dig that. I'll dig that a little bit. Anyway, so without any other closing remarks and going into this, what we will be doing next week, barring that our special guest doesn't have a hugely busy schedule, we will be having our chief ironic medic talking to this special guest about a special scenario that's happening on the ground. There's your hint. Exactly. There's your hint. That's it, and what's coming up next week on the show. With that said, from our chief logistics officer, Captain Timberwolf, our chief extra grumpy with 3 side orders of gravel and poutine, intelligence officer, Captain Sarcasm Detector, our chief of QQ, please let us nerf everything today, science officer, Captain Snipey 37 Alpha, our chief of ultra cheesy cheese, but still not enough chemo cheese to match some of the people out there right now, cheesy ultra cheesy tactics, Captain SOB, our chief ironic medic who's trying to keep us all sane but really just huffing way too many stims, Captain MK. Our chief emergency role-playing hologram who just so happened to get coated with Sarcasm's mental engrams. Oh.
That explains a lot, actually.
Really? I don't know.
Because all us Canadians are really all clones of each other.
Now it makes
Interesting.
sense.
Interesting.
It makes
Didn't
sense.
work for
That
the Mariposa crew, guys. Come on.
That would make sense.
And I'm just the guy who needs his head examined whenever I'm firing a damn torp. You all have a good night. We'll see you in game.
Good night.